Well, we welcome you to Blues Game Day Live. Darren Pang alongside Joe Vitale, and return from Pittsburgh. I would imagine that's a Control-Alt-Delete, all forgotten about now as you get ready for the Toronto Maple Leafs here tonight. And by the way, it's an early hockey game tonight. It's not a 7 o'clock game. 6 o'clock start to help out Hockey Night in Canada. With the Leafs here in town.
Yeah, it's going to be in Control-Alt-Delete is well said, Darren. I like it. It's one of those coaches sometimes you lift up the rug. I used to do this when I was cleaning as a kid. My mom would say, hey, sweep the floor. I would just find the nearest rug. I open it and just kind of kick it in under there.
It's amazing that you said that while your two girls were here watching.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, she's not listening. We should be good. No, a game you wanna sweep under the rug. You want a clean slate. Listen, this is a group that's tired. November was some hard travel, some hard games, and I think it just caught up to them. But the good news is a couple-day reset, and you're fighting a monster here tonight in St. Louis, the Toronto Maple Leafs. This should not be a game that is very hard for a player or a coach or any fan, broadcaster to get up for.
No question about that. And obviously a coaching change almost to the day that the St. Louis Blues let go of Mike Yeo last year and replaced him with Craig Berube. They've done the same thing with Mike Babcock. Signed a massive deal, wasn't able to complete the entire contract of that deal, but they bring in Sheldon Keefe that, they've a kid that's been highly sought after. Many teams wanted to interview Sheldon Keefe, and they protected him, and now he's their head coach. They're trying to change a few things. Craig Berube just mentioned that. When you're a team that's trying to make those changes, whether it's D-zone coverage, neutral zone play, puck possession time, can you catch a team like that in the middle if they're just off a little bit?
I think so. I think the biggest thing when you have a coach come in and you want to change the systems, you want to change, there's some characteristics of the group and how you want to play, Darren. Listen, a lot of coaches do this. Yeah. A lot of coaches come in and try to implement their change, but let's be honest, it only works when you start to win. And when you start to win, that's when it starts to snowball. You look at the Blues last year. Craig Berube comes in here. He tries to implement something. They started getting the save. They started playing better defensively, but they started winning games, and that was the biggest thing. And that's what these players, these NHL players, these guys that make $1 million, if they want to have belief in the coach,
or 12,
or 12 million, or 40 between 4 players, it's a lot of money. Then you got to win games. So I think that for Keefe to come in here and to make changes, that's great. But they got to figure out a way to get 2 points at the end of these nights, because then it becomes contagious. And they could be a dangerous group, but up front, they have some high-end skill up front. I think just on the back end has been a bit of an issue for the Maple Leafs this year.
I know we're going to be quick on this Game Day Live based on the fact that the game's starting rather quickly. So I'll get to the meat and potatoes of this one here. Matchup game. Yeah. I mean, they've obviously got, when you look at Matthews, Nylander, Mitchell Marner's back in the lineup, and John Tavares. Let's just start with those, and let's start with the D matchup for the St. Louis Blues. And how important is that going to be tonight?
Well, it's going to be big. I mean, the 6 defensemen, I feel like Craig Berube can just feel comfortable putting any 6 out there against these matchups. To me, this is going to be the offensive matchup to look for. Ryan O'Reilly typically going up against some really top lines in the National Hockey League. But the problem here tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs is you got 2. You got Tavares on one, you got Austin Matthews on the other, and they're loaded up on both wings. So that's going to be the matchup to kind of keep an eye on. I would imagine that Craig Berube will start with the Matthews-O'Reilly matchup and kind of see how it goes. And
on the defensive side
on the defensive side of it, but Panger, I would keep an eye.
Parayko and Pietrangelo going together.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Boy, they just eat up a lot of minutes, and now he can go back to Bouwmeester and Justin Falk. Bortuzzo stays in the lineup, Gunnarsson's out, and then Vince Dunn always plays well against Toronto as well.
Yeah, I like Robert Bortuzzo back in the lineup too. He was a little bummed. He was bummed in that Pittsburgh game. I thought he played well the game before that, but bummed not being in Pittsburgh. But he always plays hard when he was scratched, and then he's coming back for the first game. Kind of a little bit more giddy up underneath him, I think.
And Toronto will manage to get, even though they haven't been generating any power plays, which is shocking, the numbers or the low number of power plays that they've been able to draw. That's likely the fact that they're not forcing the other teams to take minor penalties on them. But if that were the case, and Toronto gets a lot of power plays, then you've obviously got one of the best shot blockers in the league in Bortuzzo.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you brought up the penalties, Panger, and I'm glad you did, because this is a high-end team, high-octane. And coaches would always tell you, when you're playing teams like this, you got to do 2 things. Of course, you got to manage the puck well, but a simple thing, stay out of the box. Because when you start taking penalties, especially early in the game, then Tavares gets out there, Mitch Marner gets out there. They start to hold on the puck 5, 6 seconds. They're waiting around. They're getting confident, especially early in the game. It's going to be very important for the Blues to stay disciplined.
Joe, Toronto takes 63.3 attempts per game, shot attempts per game, and that's the second most in the National Hockey League. So you know that's going to be coming. And in fact, they had 77 attempts earlier in October in Toronto. The Blues obviously prevailed in that one. This should be a high-octane game. It's always exciting. A lot of the players will have family members and aunts and uncles and friends watching on Hockey Night in Canada all across the nation. And, of course, right here, it's on 101 ESPN with Joe Vitale and Chris Kerber. The pregame show's an hour before that. And, of course, on Fox Sports Midwest, John Kelly and I will have the call. We return to the broadcast booth after Wednesday's game was on NBC Sports Network. So enjoy the game, everybody, and we'll Well, we'll see you tonight. I know you'll see us or you'll hear us. For Joe Vitale, I'm Darren Pang.